Hello, Dave and Tim here with the latest single malt review as we return to Speyside to Glenfarclas.
Yes, and what a Glenfarclas it is, or maybe what a Glenfarclas it is not. If you're anything like me, you'll be surprised to see this. I had no idea Glenfarclas went into the single digits for age-stated whiskey. In fact, I was scrolling down the list of available Glenfarclases, Glenfarclas, in the Latin nomenclature, and I was surprised to see the 10-year-old. I didn't know they made a 10, I thought it started at 12, but then I was astonished, flabbergasted to see an even younger one, below that one, 8 years old, crazy. 8 years old, 40%, so the youngest and some of the lightest, weakest in terms of bottling strength, Glenfarclas whiskey, so I couldn't not pick it up. I was so astonished. I thought maybe finally this is the day I'll be able to try a bad Glenfarclas, but no, it wasn't to be. Sadly, they've done it again with the least resources available. Although I think, as we'll discover, the 8 on here might be a bit of a fib because, as they stipulate, that means there is nothing younger than 8 years old here. It doesn't mean there isn't anything older than 8 years here. And I think they have top-dressed this one up pretty significantly because this is, I think, a pretty cracking whiskey, far beyond what I would expect for 8 years old. So, let's have a wee look. It is uncoloured, so that's pretty healthy colour for
a pleasant, bright
8-year-old whiskey, and that shows you that Glenfarclas still uses a predominance of sherry wood to get that colour out of just an 8-year-old. That's pretty healthy looking, and yeah, it's really quite unmistakably still Glenfarclas, even way down there at the low end of the age spectrum. There's that immediate sort of red fruity richness that you get out of well, not Glenfarclas alone, but of so few other Speysides.
Toffee apples, cinnamon, spiced fruit pie.
Yeah, all of the good stuff. All of the red fruit, and it's all the ripe red fruit as well. There's the red currant, there is toffee apples, as Dave said. That's a really good one. That really brings together the sort of crisp, fresh fruitiness, but also the really sort of confectionery, pudding, sugary goodness that you get out of these.
And that slight bitterness of the cooked apple rind.
Yeah, stewed fruit, macerated fruit. Really pretty tremendous. And, well, we should have done this as a proper exercise. That's that content gone forever. Go back in time, put on a blindfold, and taste this one as a thought exercise blind. How old do you think it was?
Because it's got a richness of aroma there, the depth of it, the breadth, despite it being a mere 40% ABV and only 8 years old.
So what would have you said? Oh, this is probably...
I would have picked 12 plus.
Yeah. So if I picked this one up, I would have had one sniff and gone, that's a mature whiskey, a fully mature whiskey. That's at least 12 years old, if not 15 to 18 would have been my pick. And it, well, like I say, maybe it is. Who knows how much 8 years old in here is going on. They might have put in a little eyedropper's worth, but that would seem to be poor economics, really.
Yeah. There is a certain liveliness, though, a sort of youthful vigor,
it's a youthful kind of a thing
in the older Glenfarclas.
But we're not. It's youthful without having that unfinished.
It's not a raw
edge,
and fiery,
which we uncovered in those. What was it? Springs and bollards, and
streams, rocks,
something. Those ones for the German market that we
tried way the heck back in our early months.
Yeah, those really were Glenfarclases which were too young. That was the only time I've ever tried immature Glenfarclas whiskey. So anyway, rattled on enough. Let's see what's on the palate.
Oh, that's altogether too easy to drink.
Yeah,
there's a bit of flavour there, but that low strength means it's easy just to let it wash over your tongue.
It's really gentle. There's no, there's an edge to it, but it's not a immature edge to it. It's just a spirituous kind of a quality. Yeah. It's light and playful in a way that Glenfarclas often is not. I love Glenfarclas, but the older it gets, the more sort of, depending, the typical Glenfarclas, the sort of house blend, as it ages, it gets more complex, but it also gets more challenging to really kind of unpack and get all of the notes. It can go another way. It can go the 105 way if it's in very active sherry wood, and then it becomes kind of loud and bombastic, like, you know, that uncle that's sort of 5 hours into Christmas dinner has to be kind of go for a lie down somewhere. But typically Glenfarclas, it ages very, I don't know, gracefully, but sort of very properly, very buttoned up as it gets older. This is that style, that middle-of-the-range Glenfarclas style, but without any of that buttoned-up quality. It's still kind of quite loose and playful with its flavours.
It has quite a fiery, spirituous finish to it. That immature spirit is coming through right at the end.
The spirit is still... It's still young, so that young spirit vibrancy, that's going nowhere. So if you don't have a palate for that necessarily, then stick with your older editions. But I think that works quite well in this particular bottle. I'll put a wee bit of water in.
The flavour to me is not really living up to the aroma. The aroma is full of richness and complexity and depth, which I'm not getting on the tongue.
No, I agree.
After a while, it's a extremely light and fleeting flavour. It's got a lot of the classic hallmarks of Glenfarclas. It's quite a strong Speyside flavour, but there's not much to it. There's not much to unpack. It's there, it says hello, then it's gone.
I think a bit of water might resolve a few of your issues. I put in just probably a wee bit more than you did.
Right. I had a very small pour to begin with, so I'm going to be quite cautious. I don't want to overwater a whiskey that's already
that really
40%.
Really gets the fresh and fruity going. That quickens the palate so that it doesn't spend longer or it doesn't spend as much time lingering on those spirituous notes at the end. The whole thing rushes.
Here comes peaches and pears in particular. It's turned into a real little fruit sorbet of a whiskey. That is a marked improvement. You wouldn't think that you'd get this much transformation with a whiskey that's already
normally
at 40%.
Normally, 40%. That's as low as I typically want to go. But almost uniquely, this one I think better below 40%. That's the sort of the magic of young whiskies. They're very flexible. They're very they are very robust. They can take a lot of punishment with regards to water, ice, other things you might want to, harm that may come their way that might otherwise put off a older whiskey. Young ones, they're up to the challenge, and this one certainly is. So, I think this is in defiance of all conventional wisdom, a really good Glenfarclas. It's also potentially the cheapest Glenfarclas you can buy. What I don't know is if it is readily available. This one has all the hallmarks to me of a bottle that has come and gone from duty free, from what do they call it? Retail, travel retail. That's the new duty free, because it has 3 different importers from Austria, Belgium, and Australia, respectively. So I think this was destined for airports, and it got found its way back into the retail market when it failed to sell.
Probably reached out via Australia.
Yeah, so not certain whether you can just go and pick this up at your local sort of whiskey spec, but let us know if you've found this one in the wild or whether you've only seen it at airports, because that would be my suspicion. Anyway, scores for this. What I think is a lovely example of a younger Glen. Almost caught it. Almost did me on that one. Almost mixed up the Glens, and I'd come so far. Farclas. Man, it's hard. Once it gets on the tongue, that Glen syndrome, it's one of the worst syndromes out there, within reason. I love this whiskey. This is really, really good. I think it's extremely well priced, and it's such a interesting look into a side of Glenfarclas which is not typically seen, and certainly not celebrated like the older whiskey is. This is a pretty easy 84 for me. And then think about that in terms of other things that have gotten to that, that high in our scores, because we mark pretty hard in terms of most whiskey commentators. 84 for an 8-year-old whiskey, that's pretty tremendous. What do you think?
I'm not as sold on this one. It's a commendable and bold experiment, producing something with such a low age statement for a distillery that normally has its core range at a much higher age and a higher proof. it's an interesting complex nose. It's got some, it's sort of taken on some properties of being a mostly younger whiskey. However, the flavour for me just isn't all there. It's lacking, it's just a little bit weak, it's a little bit unsure. It could do with being older and stronger, which means it could do with being more like nearly any other Glenfarclas. That said, it's obviously not without merit, it's still tasty, it's still a very good Glenfarclas. Just not the best they could do. That said, though, it still rates an 82.
There you go. Not bad at all for, again, an 8-year-old whiskey.
It's a drinkable, approachable bargain of a Glenfarclas.
Also, how brave is that to put 8 on your bottle? That really is tremendous. In the world of no age statements that we are now all find ourselves living in, to greater or lesser amounts of chagrin, depending on one's thoughts on that. I think it's tremendous to see an honest number on a bottle, because
Well, see the likes of Glen Murray, Glendronach's Helan has an 8-year-old age statement on it, but generally you usually only see a number that small on something, say, a heavily peated Isla or Island.
And I think that's good. I think that's worth doing, because it's not a high number, but it's still a guarantee. It's still a quality statement unto itself, because 8, fine, but that means they haven't gone and torpedoed this whiskey with any 5 or, goodness knows, 3-year-old spirit. It ensures that this may be a young bottle of whiskey, but it's not going to be a horribly immature bottle of whiskey, which the no age statement gives you zero guarantee of. So,
and that age statement means you can then mentally bookshelf this one. You can compartmentalise it along with the other age statement whiskies from the same distillery, and just build up a more full library, really, of what their entire range is like. You know what it tastes like at 8, at 12, at 15, and so on, giving you a more complete picture of what the maturation, the evolution of this one whiskey is.
So I think good on Glenfarclas for that one. Probably easier for them to do, given they don't have they are a private and independent company. They don't have investors to keep happy. They don't have mandates to sell however, a X, Y amount of whiskey. I think we could always hope to see more of that sort of stuff. Anyway, we're going to see something else immediately. Oh, there are still so many. Oh, it's going to be hard.
Yes.
Hard job this weekend. Okay, we will get cracking into that. We'll see you very soon. Sludger, we will be right back.